Hey, this is Dan from learningcameras.com, and here I've got the new, it's actually been out for a little while, but it's the 40mm f2.8 Canon lens, and it's the Pancake lens. Now, when this first came out, I really didn't see a lot of need for it. The only cameras that are out at the time, the smallest ones, were really like the T4i. Not a lot of reason to get a Pancake lens on the T4i, just because it's going to be smaller, but you're still going to have the grip extending past the lens. It really isn't going to make it much smaller, but we've got kind of a double bonus here because I've got the brand new SL1 from Canon. This is their mini DSLR. They say the smallest DSLR ever made. So we're going to test this lens with that, because this is really the perfect combination. First time I've ever seen this lens really fitting in on something. So we could put this lens on the EOS M if you wanted to. We'll see what Canon does with their mirrorless cameras. I haven't been too impressed with the first generation, but it might improve shortly. So the SL1 though is really the small DSLR that this was made for. It really, because it still extends past the grip and past the flash, so we do want to keep our profile to a minimum. So let's take a look at this lens and see how it does. Now, as a little bit of bonus, all of the images taken with this lens were also taken on the SL1, so you're going to get a good idea of the quality of the SL1. We are going to be reviewing it fully as well, and you'll just be able to get kind of that sneak peek of the results of that. And overall, I was very pleased. We will be posting the images up at learningcameras.com. You can click on the link, get there, subscribe to keep updated on the new videos that we've got coming out, including the reviews of these cameras. And if you go to the website, click on our Amazon.com or even our Adorama.com links, and you can help support our site by using those links to make your purchases. And overall, just a very nice camera, and we'll take a look at some of the images. Now, the build quality on the Canon 40mm, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. We never expected anything to be unbelievable. I'd say it's one step nicer than the Canon 50mm f1.8, which is a lens I tended to recommend for people with a T4i or a Canon 60D, because the size didn't matter too much and I preferred the extra stop advantage. But at f2.8 on this lens, this matters a little bit more because of the size. So at f2.8, you're going to have some very good results. So let's take a look at the sharpness test. And on our sharpness test at f2.8, even at 100%, results look very good. When we boost that up to f4, we can see a little bit of difference, but I'm still very satisfied with the results at f2.8. At f5.6, almost no difference from f4. So f4 really is a very good result for this lens. And even at f2.8, very sharp. I expected nothing less from Canon on this because it is a prime lens. Shooting at f2.8 should be sharp. Now, taking a look at vignetting, you can see a little bit of vignetting at f2.8, nothing major at all. By f4, it begins to go away. And at f5.6, we can really see no improvement from f2.8 or from f4 on that. So f2.8 really is fine. I wouldn't even take it out of 99% of my pictures anyway. Now, autofocus is something I wanted to test on this lens. It is very small, so the motor is going to be much smaller too, but I'm pleased to say that even on this camera, the results are going to be very, very good. And overall, I've been seeing unbelievable, extremely quick. I mean, we're talking about split seconds on that one. Now, I also wanted to test the video on this lens. And the biggest thing I wanted to check out is if you could hear the autofocus motor focusing during autofocus, live autofocus on this camera. So we're going to listen in, and this is basically the live recording from the mic built in on this camera as we autofocus. And as you can tell, that this lens is very silent, almost unable to hear it. There were a couple times I heard it a little bit, but honestly, in an outdoor circumstance, it's really not going to be louder than your ambient. Now, if you get this into a much quieter environment, you would hear it a little bit more, but outdoor under normal ambient sound conditions, you're just really not going to hear it. So it's nice to see that Canon has really put a silent autofocus motor in this. So if you're doing video with this lens, it did focus very well, very quickly, no problems at all with that, and it did focus extremely quiet. Now, bokeh on the Canon 40mm actually looks very good on this lens. I must say the results are very pleasing. Everything is round. We don't see any concentric circles. It really does look very pleasing for an inexpensive lens like this. So very happy with the results. Now when it comes to flare, I did pick up flare. This lens does not come with a lens hood, and it pretty much is impossible to get one on here. I'm not sure if Canon makes one for this because of it, but I did pick up lens flare on pretty much most of the pictures of the sun. It went from very minor to somewhat extreme, so keep that in mind. If you are shooting into the sun, you might pick up flare and you just want to move your lens just a little bit out of the way. So overall image quality from this lens is very pleasing. Very nice. I was very satisfied. Plenty of contrast, light looks good, colors look good. Overall, just a very nice lens, for especially around that $200 range. You really can't go wrong with it. I will say, if you have a camera like this or the EOS M, this is a no-brainer lens. I would buy this in a heartbeat. The results were very nice. The macro abilities are very good. The profile just keeps your camera so small that it's really just an amazing thing to have a lens and camera combination in a DSLR this small. So overall, I would definitely go for this lens if you have something like this. If you do have a T4i or a 60D, I might steer you away a little bit just because of the f2.8, and you can get an f1.8, f2 35mm from Canon, the 50mm f1.8, 50mm f1.4 is not much more than this, and Sigma just came out with a new 30mm f1.4 II. That's a very nice lens for a camera such as this. So if you do have anything a little bit bigger than a camera such as this, I might look at one of those lenses just because you're going to get a little bit more on the aperture. And nothing wrong with this lens, it's just that the size advantage is not going to really help you, and I would go for the aperture advantage on most of those. But definitely if you have a camera like this or the EOS M, or if Canon puts out anything new that resembles these small cameras, definitely go for this. 40mm f2.8, you really can't go wrong. Solid lens.